In Season 2 of 1923, the Dutton family is approaching winter. Elizabeth was bitten by a wolf, Jacob, Harrison Ford, and his cowboys were stuck in a blizzard, and Cara, Helen Mirren, had already had to slay a mountain lion. The entire cast of 1923 is still in danger from the cold, and among all the chaos, some of the most recent episodes' details might have been overlooked. The rest of the show had their hands full, but the Duttons in Montana were battling the weather. Alexandra Julia Schlepfer had a terrifying boat voyage. Spencer Dutton, Brandon Sklenar, became embroiled with the mafia, and Tiana Rainwater, Amina Nieves, and company had to rush to see whether they could stay on Charles Goodnight's property. After 1923 Season 2, Episode 2, a lot happened, but the most important question is whether Elizabeth perished in the terrifying wolf attack on the Dutton Lodge. A brief explanation of each of those developments is warranted, as is an assessment of their implications for the remaining Yellowstone spin-off series. Banner Creighton, Jerome Flynn, confided in Clyde, Brian Connowell, that he was terrified of Donald Whitfield, Timothy Dalton, as they were waiting out the blizzard in the speakeasy. Since the conclusion of 1923 Season 1, Creighton and Whitfield had been collaborating to eliminate the Duttons and seize the Yellowstone, therefore it has significant ramifications that Creighton is terrified of his business partner. Creighton might become an odd ally in 1923 Season 2 after deciding that it's safer and better to support the Duttons rather than Whitfield. Although he has issues with Jacob, Whitfield appears to be a greater threat in Creighton's eyes. Creighton might become an odd ally if he determines that supporting the Duttons is safer and preferable to Whitfield. Ellie, Sarah Randall Hunt, Creighton's wife, is another factor that could persuade him to turn against Whitfield. Banner has already been cautioned by Ellie that lying to dogs only attracts fleas, and after witnessing Whitfield's ability to see right through people, he might heed her advice. Additionally, Creighton may be more amenable to working with the younger Dutton because he doesn't have the same issues with him as he does with Jacob. While looking for Tiana Rainwater, Father Renault, played by Sebastian Roche, and Marshall Kent, played by Jamie McShane, encountered a lot of difficulties in Oklahoma. While at their camp, Renault and Kent were assaulted by a gang of Comanche children. Although they repulsed the attack, tensions between them appear to be growing. After arguing with Renault about their opinions on race and how to integrate Native Americans into the white community, Kent exposed himself as being far more racist and vicious than Renault, who is also far from perfect. Renault was obviously wary of his traveling companion after Kent had slain one of the Comanche children. Renault is still a devout man despite his bigotry and cruelty, and he might conclude that Kent is too terrible to travel with any longer. In 1923 Season 2, Renault might even have a type of redemption arc, turning against Kent in favor of assisting Tiana. Tiana would have a far higher chance of escaping with her life if Kent had to pursue her alone, at the very least. The last several minutes of 1923 Season 2, Episode 2 were the most startling. The doctor and his nurse treated Elizabeth, Michelle Randolph, who had been bitten by a wolf earlier in the episode, for rabies. When Cara heard a thump and a scream from the living room in the middle of the night, she realized that the wolf had come back, smashed through the lodge's doors and killed the nurse, not Elizabeth, by mauling her. Elizabeth is still alive in 1923 Season 2 since she bounded off to her room upstairs after the nurse offered to sleep on the couch. Elizabeth went off to her room upstairs after the nurse offered to sleep on the couch, so Elizabeth is still. Cara will have to talk Elizabeth down from the ledge, or at least stall long enough for Jack, Darren Mann, to get out of the snowdrift. Elizabeth, who did not die in the wolf attack, will still need to be treated for rabies. She has already received one of the 12 shots she needs to receive, but the next 11 won't be easy because of how hard she fought for the first one. Elizabeth also complained about how hard life is on the ranch and promised to leave the Yellowstone as soon as the storm passed.